Good evening, everyone. Welcome to DOL, Dignity of Labor, KTP series, Know the Profession. Today we have with us Shanmukh sir, Indian Forest Service with us. Hi, sir.
Hi.
Good evening. Welcome to our channel. Thanks a lot for your valuable time, sir. To quickly start off, it would be great to know for our viewers to understand how did it all start? How did you land into this profession of Indian Forest Service?
Good afternoon. This is Shanmukh Kumar. I belong to 2017 batch of Indian Forest Service, Andhra Pradesh cadre. So, my motivation to attempt for civil services and eventually get selected for Indian Forest Service all emanates from my father, because he's a government servant. He's still working in agriculture department. So he used to take me along with the families to villages as part of interaction. Thereby, you can understand, we all got to know what is the effect a good, honest public servant can have on the impact of public life or the lives of other people. So thereby, we can understand how much we can contribute back to the society. So taking that as a cue and as a responsibility upon myself, I chose this path. So I did my matriculation and plus 2 or 12th in Andhra Pradesh. Then I completed my engineering from BITS Pilani, Goa. I did my MBA from Osmania University and prepared for civil services right out of college. Haven't attempted any corporate jobs. And the process of preparation for the civil services, I also attempted numerous other exams where I qualified for State Bank of India Probation Officer, as well as Intelligence Bureau and Enforcement Directorate through the SSC Examination.
Thanks a lot, sir. Congratulations on this achievement and the career path that you have taken.
Thank you.
So, what was that inflection point? Where was that point that you wanted to really pursue? Like, was it a second year of engineering, or is it from the childhood, or like primarily towards UPSC?
So, my father used to always suggest that it is better to join civil services at the earliest age possible. Of course, you can only join civil services at the youngest age being 21. You can't join younger than that. But so by age 21, meaning you'll be completing your graduation just out of the college. So, but well, being a normal student, perhaps I never really focused upon that part to prepare for what is after graduation, during the graduation, or before graduation. Only after completing my engineering, then I thought it is time we really focused on what we want to do, where we want to see ourselves. So I started preparing at 21. I got into service at an age of 23.
Okay. Yeah. So after your undergrad, there was this preparation phase. Then there was this preparation and examination phase. Then your training phase, and then posting. So can you please elaborate about what are the optionals? How did your exam go through? What is the preparation that you have taken care and took? What are all the sacrifices that you might have done this?
So the design of exam, particularly when we speak about Indian civil services as well as Indian Forest Service, both of them have a common preliminary examination. So as in the exam is same, both paper 1 and paper 2, they are common for both. Paper 2 is qualifying, and paper 1, depending on the score you get, you qualify for civil services, and if it is on a higher side, even further higher, because cutoff for Indian Forest Service prelims is higher than that of civil services. So if you clear both, you can attempt both the mains. But after prelims, the mains and interview are separate. The mains and personality test, as it is called. Mains and personality test are separate for civil services and Indian Forest Service. So in mains, nearly other than general essay, there are 4 general studies papers, general studies descriptive papers in civil services, whereas in Indian Forest Service you have 1 general studies and English, which is also counted for this thing. Over and above that, you have 1 optional which is to be chosen and prepared for in civil services, whereas in Indian Forest Service you have 2 options you have to prepare for. Only some of the options are common. It's not like, because in civil services there's a wide gamut of options from where we can choose. But in India Forest Service, it is restricted to a few. So usually what happens is, people who have 1 option at least common between both of them, they have an edge because they don't have to read 3 optionals in the span of for 4 to 6 months. After that, the personality test is anyway, you will be prepared. You have already shown that you have prepared enough, you are good enough for the exam. So all they would like to do is how you react, So you don't have to answer to every question that is thrown at you in personality test. That's the important part. But you just have to make sure that you stay in the best of your senses and answer it precisely. If you can't recollect it, there's nothing wrong, but it's like that. So that's about the optionals. Whereas the preparation part, so if you look at the examination cycle in a year, suppose approximately, then it tends to vary a bit. So the notification for the exam comes somewhere in Feb, March.
Correct.
Excuse me. So then preliminary exam will be conducted somewhere in May, June. Then mains will be somewhere in September, October for civil services, and then the forest service mains will be in December. Then the personality test will be somewhere in April, March to April, like that. So if you look at it, by the time you have cleared all and you're sitting for personality test, the notification for the next examination is already out.
Correct.
It's a cycle, basically, the cycle that does not end.
Mm-hmm.
So until and unless you run out of attempts or you clear the exam, basically it's a test of perseverance of each and every individual who is trying to prepare for the exam. So when we speak about perseverance, obviously all the limiting factors and facilitating factors come into play. Suppose, for example, someone is not well off, he would have an immediate financial pressure that is coming up if he wants to take off some couple of years, dedicate them for preparing for exam. So they would have to go for some on-job preparation or something like that. Suppose someone would be forced by marriage, someone would be already having a family when they're preparing, like that. So all these factors, each individual who is preparing for the exam, they have to consider and accordingly plan. So that's one of the most important factors that is going to pan out, because it's not an exam where you simply prepare for a couple of months and then just give a hit at it and you either select it, or you either get selected or you don't get selected. It's not the outcome anyone wants, because you really need to have a burning
desire.
Rather motivation, I would say, not a desire, because only that can propel you through these long days of hard toil work.
Okay. So when you say about, like, we happen to hear that UPSC is one of the toughest exams to crack because of the conversion ratio is too high to imagine. So is there, like, you also had given multiple other exams, so do you suggest that all the aspirants should have a plan B, or the second way is like, I'll give only a specific amount of time for this UPSC, whether I select or don't select, I'll exit. So, like, what is that mix of things that one can choose?
Coming to that aspect, I would say there is no one solution, one panacea to all these problems, because every person is unique in himself. Because some persons, they act or they perform their best under pressure. So they might perform their best if they don't have an exit policy. How they don't have an exit policy. But some people, they might perform better if they have a safeguard. So I can comfortably say that I had almost 3 government jobs by the time I was attending for Indian Forest Service. But still, luckily, it kept me in a position of comfort rather than pressure. So that's how I perceive it. It's not common for all. So there is that difference.
So there are two schools of thought, you would say.
I mean, it's like each individual has to perceive the exam in his own, being in his own shoes. Coming back to the part wherein how many years you have to dedicate for the exam. So luckily, I had one of the family members who had prepared for the exam right before me. So his valuable suggestion to me was, you dedicate 4 years of your life to the exam. Take whatever the exam essentially gives you as a result. Accept the failure, that perhaps you are destined for something better. If you succeed in it, well, perhaps you can do more service through this. That's how it is. But in the end, it's really important that any aspirant who is really who really wants to prepare for the exam should not have any regrets. Because if you have really given your best, and if you have not made it that year or in the numerous attempts that the exam provides for, perhaps it is not really, we are not really for it, or we might be up for something better or something bigger. So it's like that.
Sir, so when you say about the number of years that you have taken, like this is the amount of time. So in general, there are like specific limited number of attempts that one candidate will go at. Like, do you see anyone giving so many number of attempts, and like it might be just a little updation of general studies or the topics that you have studied for in previous year and this year exam. So how do you cope up that I have studied this already? Like, when you say that I am going to clear my mains, or you have given your mains and going for your personality test, but by then you need to appear to your prelims as well. So, like, how does that critical portion, which is a juncture of one cycle and the next cycle, so how do you manage that? You need to have like kind of dual mindset that currently I'm preparing for this, currently I'm preparing for that, or how does that go for a candidate?
I think the beauty of the exam lies in, when I was saying, the personality test goes up till April. Even after completion of the last personality test, you still have not less than 2 months for preliminary examination. I would say anyone who has cleared mains and who is appearing for personality test can comfortably prepare for the next preliminary exam within a month, not even 2 months. No one would require 2 months. And the beauty of the exam lies because when we are preparing for personality test, essentially most of the people who are appearing for personality test would be focusing upon the current affairs as to how we interpret the situation and whether any additional measures that can be taken in that situation by the government or as a policymaker if you were there. Because essentially such type of questions are posed in the personality test to almost all the appearing aspirants depending upon the day and time. So because we prepare upon current affairs and the basics are already well versed and we have prepared, I mean, we have revised umpty number of times for the exams and the numerous mock tests we attend in the process. So I think every aspirant who is appearing for personality test need not worry as such. And essentially almost all of us would usually take a 10 to 15 day break right after the personality test to cool off the minds a bit because they're already overheated sort of.
Okay, that's great. So, sir, once you are done with your exam, you know that you got selected. You go into the training, right? So, you like the batches will be on basis of the batch that the service that you have selected for. So, during that time, like generally, just to be have an analogous one, like when I had joined my engineering, I'll be like, I wanted to go to computer science, but I am in electrical, mechanical, or some other branch which I happen to get. So, is it like how do you decide upon the service? Like at times it might be by choice or by chance. So do you really try again for a better service? Not better, I won't say better, but another service which you're interested in, or yeah, how do you?
So usually the service allocation is done based upon the rank and the score that we get. This is a clear criteria how it is done, and then again within the service the cadre allocation depending on the cadre vacancies in that year and of categories, etc. So that is how it is done. It is particularly based on merit predominantly.
Yes.
And the cadre allocation is done in consonance with the recent zonal policy. So that is that. But most of the times, because many people have this perception that when we speak of civil services, it's only IAS or IPS for many of them. Very few people might even have an understanding of IRS, income tax, or foreign service like that. So because of this persona or the perception being restricted to only a couple of services, essentially what we end up doing is many people they have a fixed aim of entering into that particular service.
Okay.
So I have seen multiple friends, batchmates, peers who have prepared along with me, who they write multiple times just to ensure that they get into that service.
Okay.
But to be, I think, honest to all the services, each service offers a distinctive opportunity which is unique to that.
Okay.
Because you tend to focus in one particular sphere of public life wherein you can make a really valuable contribution, thereby change the lives of millions.
Okay.
So each service is a unique opportunity. But like I said, because the perception is not really grilled down or completely detailed out for each service by anyone to all the aspirants, they might end up choosing only a few.
Okay. Like that. So hopefully through our YouTube channel, we might ensure to push more awareness in the later days. So as you mentioned about each of the service, so how does your job description or responsibility of an IFS cadre, official will be having, and what are your prime responsibilities when you're joining into your first posting?
So rather than going for a first posting, I would say our career starts off as first we'll be probationary officers in our training. As soon as the training is completed, we'll be given the first training posting rather.
Okay.
As assistant conservator of forest.
Okay.
Within a district. Then we'll be given the deputy conservator of forest for a district, which then again promoted to upon completion of almost 14 years of service, will be upgraded to conservator of forest. Looking over depending on the area, sometimes 3 to 4 districts like that. So then chief conservator of forest CCF, then additional principal chief APCCF, and then principal chief conservator of forest. In that, the senior most is usually elevated to the rank of PCCF and HOF, principal chief conservator of forest and head of forest force. So the person who is head of the forest department at the head of the basically ministry at the government of India level, the director general of forest, would be usually the senior most IFS officer. So essentially why I was saying that we have to prepare for the exam at the earliest is, so if you enter at an age of 21 or say 22, you will have almost 38 years of service. So if all goes well, and you would actually end up having almost 2 to 3 years of service as DGF. So you can really make change at the government of India level, policy level, at apex level, thereby contributing your best of your abilities to the country. So that's why you can make maximum service to the nation if you enter civil services, Indian Forest Service, at earliest age as possible. So that's how it is.
So then what are your prime responsibilities as a maybe a DFO or the forest official?
So one hand, we'll have to so when we are working in a district, in the district, within the geographical area, there will be recorded forest area. In that recorded forest area, all the soil and moisture conservation works, afforestation works, wherein raising of plantations, and some of the plantations will get matured, so it's our job to technically manage them to maintain main annual increment and yield of all the forests, thereby all taking action up to extraction of mature plantations depending upon the necessity. Also, we see all these natural disasters like cyclones, tsunamis. So to raise shelter belt plantations, mangroves along the coastal areas in the right site specific measures to ensure that all the coastal zone is properly protected. Along with that, we also take up measures for wildlife conservation, like habitat improvement to erect solar bore wells, mini percolation tanks, water conservation structures, bore wells, all these things to ensure that there is adequate fodder, like by development of grasslands for herbivores, as well as because of the herbivores population is rightly managed, there will be a flush population of carnivores, thereby the biodiversity will be increased across the food web. So the management, the technical management of forests, and also the wildlife part. Along with this, there are some unique opportunities that Indian Forest Service offers. So particularly in my current posting as DFO Nellore, so we have the coastal area wherein there is seasonal nesting of olive ridley turtles. So releasing of that hatchlings, seeing that the harsh living conditions of that species faces. So only less than 1 in 1,000 of those little hatchlings come back as a mother to lay eggs again. So all these odds, we are trying to improve those odds for the wildlife, because we are only one species as part of biodiversity. So we are trying to ensure the balance of the biodiversity for all the future generations. So that pristine task is upon us, and this is the only service that offers to take up that immense responsibility upon us to ensure that it is preserved for the future generation.
Okay, that's really great, sir. So when you say like you had multiple amount of responsibilities and several things to take in care of, how does your timings look like? Is it like a 24/7? It seems like a 24/7 job, but how does your work-life balance really happen in this profession?
So technically, I would say it is a 24/7 job. Okay. But again, it's a technically. But essentially, because you're not, DFO is not the exactly executing authority in each of the single bit of area that is there in the district. Suppose in Nellore district, I am having almost 2.8 lakh hectares of recorded forest area, territorial forest area, which is under my supervision. So in that entire area, I'm not the one who is executing the works, but because of numerous designations of staff who ensure all the works are in place through proper supervision, etc., things go properly. But essentially, office work is morning 10 to evening 5, 6. But as per the...
So how does the compensation, benefits, and what all support is given by government to IFS officials or their family, to have a smooth functioning of the work-life balance?
So, like, the timings are stretchable. So essentially, what it basically indicates is that the work-life balance is always present, but it is just that we'll have to ensure that it is dynamic. It is not specific, like, because the working hours are not fixed. That is how it is. With respect to other facilities, so depending on availability of the quarters, official quarters in the place, so an official residence will be given, usually nearby the office. That's how we have seen in most of the locations, but in some places it is not there. Okay. Along with that, because we'll have to tour the various distinct remote places of the district and check the forest works that are going on there. So an official vehicle will be there. So it's like that.
Okay. So when we say IFS and more of forest service, how does your lifestyle really matter? Like, do you really stay near to the green zone, or do you stay into a headquarters, which is the state capital, or how does that go?
So if I take it from my current position, I'm working in Nellore. Nellore is pretty much one of the most urbanized regions in the country, in the Andhra Pradesh state. Okay. But at the same time, if I work as DFO Markapuram, you'll be there and working from Markapuram. You're working from Srisalem, you'll be working in Srisalem, Atmapuram, like that. So it's location specific. Okay. So when you work as a DFO, you will be looking after that district. So essentially, you'll be placed in the headquarters of the district, but touring the entire district. So thereby, you're mostly mobile, moving from one place to another, just touring the district. But once you upon getting promotions, you will be stabilized, and though you'll have to take up tours, because then you will be having 2 to 3 districts under your supervision. Your amount of time that you would spend attending meetings would be more compared to
the field work.
Field work. But in the district level, it's more of field work.
Okay. So, like this might be one of the questions because you were saying about the location specific. So, assume a candidate or an aspirant is belonging to a specific state and he wants to have a position based out of that state.
Okay.
So, on what basis that posting is being allocated?
So suppose, for example, I'm from Andhra Pradesh.
Mm-hmm.
So when I had attempted the examination, the
Mhm.
cadre allocation was based on the preferences.
Okay.
Now the cadre preferences are to be given as per the zones.
Okay.
So best case scenario would be being in top 5 or top 10 would definitely give a higher chance of getting allotted back to the parent state,
Okay.
or what we call as native
Home
state.
state.
Oh, yeah, home state. Yeah. So, but again, it's because if that year there are no vacancies in the
Mhm.
home state, there's only
That-
with the grace of
yeah.
God it is possible.
So, sir, is there like a chance that assume like you will be serving for 10 to 15 years in your home state and you wish to change your state? Will that be possible?
It's not like changing the state.
Okay.
What usually happens is after completion of 9 years of service,
Mhm.
opportunities to work outside the state, like work on central deputation, like in Ministry of Government of India,
Mhm.
or the various other institutes that are associated with Government of India,
Mhm.
research institutes, like that, they open up after 9 years of service.
Okay.
So after completion of 9 years of service, people tend to go on these deputations because there you will get a different level of exposure
Okay.
and how you work in the ministry environment.
Mhm.
So that you get to know, and because essentially when you want to go up to level of DGF or
Mhm.
ADGF,
Mhm.
so that point of time, all the tenures that you have done on central deputation would help, because
Okay.
you will have better awareness.
Like you will be exploring multiple other
Yes.
departments and
Yes.
managing them.
Yes.
Correct. So when you say achieving DGF, that position at an earliest stage, you happen to say that as early you become, you get
Yes.
your first service. So the earliest age would be 21.
Yeah.
To gain a service.
Yes.
So for assuming we take that some aspirant who is in his or her 10th or 12th grade
Mhm.
want to achieve that. So what is that best possible way to start to achieve that milestone of so and so got the youngest Indian Forest Service? Yeah.
So first thing is just to have a deep introspection, because
Mhm.
you need to understand what is your mindset.
Okay.
So suppose you are a person who likes to take risks, who does not want a plan B.
Mhm.
So depending on that, you just have to make sure you are in the right path. So
Okay.
suppose someone is not risk taking, someone would always want to have a plan B. So you have to ensure that your graduation offers you that plan B.
Okay.
And then, like I said, because if you want to attempt and clear the exam by 21, your preparation should be well versed by the time you reach 20.
Right.
You got to have a buffer of 1 year.
Yes. Yeah.
So 20 meaning you will be somewhere in third year of graduation or something.
Okay.
So my suggestion is during the graduation, right from the first year, because in your plus 2 you will be studying a lot. So right from the first year of graduation, have that incremental approach to the exam. So by the time you complete 2 years of your graduation,
Mhm.
in a 4-year course, you have to make sure that you would have completed almost all the subjects that are necessary for preparation of civil services and Indian Forest Service. That way, you would be well versed with it. And if there is a chance of overlap of optionals, so that you can select a common optional, that will reduce your burden further. And accordingly, try to focus upon the current affairs, and there is umpteen volume of material that is available for preparation nowadays. So being selective is also important. And right from day one, if we focus upon answer writing, and because in a span of 3 hours, almost 180 minutes, you'll have to answer not less than 20 questions. In that case, you're barely getting 7 minutes for each question. So if you really want to put your mind almost all the information that we collect over a period of years, and ensure that we portray it in that minuscule amount of time, you have to have almost all the valuable information at your fingertips. So we need to do multiple times revisions, and have a ton of
rigorous amount of
answer writing practice.
Yeah.
All these things are mandatory.
So when assuming, like, continuing, it's a follow-up question for the same. Like when we have the milestone or an achievement in place, like I want to get into 21 years into the service. So taking this as a primary strategy, what are the prime skill set like which have to be aligned in this profession? Like in that person, that these are the prime skill sets that one should have. Like apart from getting marks, clearing all the examinations and all, like there might be certain skill sets you really require in handling the ground reality of a forest service, right? So what are those?
So I would think to ace the examination, so major I would not say hindrance, it would be the testing situation is the mains.
Okay.
So in the mains, your answer writing is going to be put to test. So if people are not really comfortable with English, they can choose the regional language in which they want to answer. That is, option is there. But however, it's really important that whatever the language you choose, you practice the answer writing in that language to the best of your ability, so that you don't have any regret.
Okay.
Because essentially, irrespective of how much we study, how many books we have referred, the examiner is not going to be able to see all of that knowledge by looking into your mind. Your answer paper is the only thing through which he can see what are you.
Okay. So the answer should really reflect the mindset that the personality is having,
and the amount of the depth of knowledge or the extent of analytical ability. Everything has to be portrayed in the answer sheet. That's the important part.
So, as you said in your initial introduction about IFS, you happen to have this one good experience of hatchling, seasonal tortoise. So I can take that as one of the craziest thing that you might have seen in your profession.
I would not say craziest thing. I would say just satisfactory.
Satisfactory. So, are there any disadvantages for IFS profession in case, if at all, are there any?
There is a bit of occupational hazard, because when we tour the remote areas, we won't have any connection with the mobile networks, etc. Sometimes it is good for the forest protection and like that, but there is always a chance of mishaps and accident happening, etc. But that is accepted, because given the modern communication improvements, I think it is reasonable.
Okay. So, like, this might be like, you can answer this or you might not, as per your convenience. So, if at all some layman out in the society ask who is more powerful, like which service is more powerful, how do we answer that? Like generally, like if at all, to give an example, computer science batch will get highest amount of package.
Yes.
Mechanical gets more into plant oriented. So, are there any metrics that one can understand? Okay, IFS is not about I'm more into society. Collector is the head of the district. Like, we generally have these perceptions. So, how do you want that a layman out in the society will be knowing about IFS as a profession? Someone has to explain it.
I would suggest that, respect of whoever the person be, all the institutions that we talk about, be it the collector or the superintendent of police or the district forest officer, all the institutions are not an embodiment of power, but a collection of responsibility, which they are endowed upon by the society, wherein they have the highest responsibility to look after public good before anything else. So as an embodiment of that responsibility, they are given such powers to ensure that all the statutory provisions are properly maintained and implemented, and all the decisions are taken in good faith. So essentially, there should not be any such comparison. Rather, they should be really looked upon as that they are public servants. They are here to help us. So their basic ideology is to help us. So look at them as just like
a supporting ecosystem.
Yes.
Okay. So, like when we happen to hear, progress or technological advancements in private sector, so how well the governments are open to do any technological advancements in the scope of forest development or ensuring reforestation, because we happen to hear multiple other futuristic perspectives about climate change, all that, right? So the core thing for all entirety is like ensuring having equal amount of green zone within a landscape of such a huge country like India. So what are the futuristic advancements that you might see or we might see in the zone of forest service as a code?
So utilization of remote sensing, and I would say all the wildlife monitoring used to be based on normal cameras. Nowadays, all of them are IR blast cameras. We see monitoring of wildlife through radio collaring. We have already seen the monitoring of turtles movement using a satellite radio data. So ground stations, etc. So already we are in the process of seeing all these advances, but it's just that they're not really
well aware to the
publicized.
Yeah, agreed.
Publicized upon. So, but over and above all of that, I think whatever is the amount of technology that we are seeing outside, all of that is already being inculcated within the ministry. So almost all the tiger reserves are monitored through M stripes, wherein foot patrolling of each and every staff is being taken up, and so as to ensure that proper scientific management of forest is being taken up, because essentially the only and majority of the carbon sequestration is only done through forests. So it is the only saving grace for the humanity to have even the slightest chance of halting and reversing climate change. So without much ado, I think that is the major technical advance that we are going to see in the foreseeable future.
Thanks a lot. So what is that one quick or best lost advice of that you want to give to all the aspirants out who want to be into a public, become a public servant? Either there might be a choice of IAS, IPS, or IFS, or is there any specific thing for IFS aspirants as well?
So I would not like to restrict to one particular service, but what I would like to suggest is, if you really want to serve people, in civil services and Indian Forest Service offer you the best and the right opportunity to do that. And with the amount of technical education that is going around currently, and the specializations that we see right now, so I think we can offer much more diversity of ideas, approaches to almost all the problems that many of the field staff see. So this is cutting across all the departments. So in these circumstances, I think all we have to do is we need to have the right motivation and put in the correct amount of effort without having any ulterior motive, so that we don't have any regrets, because it's really important to ensure that we have done the best that we can, and always accept the outcome, because it's you who has taken the decision and it's you who should be able to handle others.
Be responsible for the decision that you have taken. Thanks a lot for your valuable tips and thanks.